Good morning, Morai v'Rabotai, Biruchim Habayim. We are continuing on Masechet Succah, and we are on Daf Nun Dalit, Amud Bet, 2 dots, about 10 lines down from the top of the Amud. Today's Amud is being learned as a Zchut Refuah Shelema for Rachel bat Edna, Rachel Simcha bat Nahid, Michael ben Nahid, Esther Bracha bat Chaya, Abraham ben Tajgol, and Daniel Moshe ben Abraham. That should all have Refuah Shelema Be'ezrat Hashem. Amen. His Amud is also being learned Le'ilui Nishmat, Jacqueline bat Abraham Anardas. This week's learning of the community has been dedicated by Shea family, Dayan family, Kohen family, Mahbubi families. Should be an ultimate zchut for all their mishpachot. Amen. So we started in our Mishnah on Daf Nun Gimal that the amount of the blows of trumpets, the chatzotrot that you had during the course of the year, again this is a tangent from the trumpet that was blown during Chag HaSukkot in all its days by Simchat B'Tashoeva, kind of officially we took a tangent road to discuss year-round. And the first thing that the Mishnah said, Anun Gimel, was En Pochatin Me'esrim. V'achat, you never have less than 21, which is simple because you have to open the gates, that's 3, and then you have 9 and 9 by each one of the Tamid Shel Shachar and Shel Ben Harbaim. So 9 plus 9 plus 3 is 21. That's simple. Then the second sentence is Ve'en Mosifin al Arbaim Ushmona. You never have more than 48. This is going to be really problematic. Now, we went through yesterday the back and forth of, do you have any other date than Chag HaSukkot when it falls to be on an Erev Shabbat, which you would have 48? And the Gemara said, yes, you have 2 other cases, and that's the reason that the Mishnah gives you only one example, because it's not going to tell you everything. My Shayir, the High Shayir, it has left out 2 out of 3 of the examples, but really you could have it in other scenarios also that you have 48. So therefore, we are still okay with having 48 be the maximum. And the reason that the Mishnah only gives you the example of the Sukkot and Erev Shabbat is because we are taking one example out of 3. Now, the Gemara says, wait, I find other dates during the calendar that could be way more than 48, not just a little bit. Just gotta blow it out of the water, says the Gemara. Velo, when you say ve'en mosifin al memchet, you don't have more than 48. Velo, you don't have more than 48. Seriously, v'ha'ika erev pesach shechal liot b'shabbat. Now we know the drill already, right? We know the basics and add-ons. So we're just gonna do the arithmetics and do a little bit of a back of the envelope over here to add up and see how many we have, right? So it says, wait a second. How many are you gonna have on erev pesach shechal liot b'shabbat? So let's do it together, right? A regular day is 21. Shabbat, you have Korban Musaf, you have extra 9. So that is so far 30. Now, Erev Pesach, we said yesterday, you have Korban Pesach. Every set of Korban Pesach that you bring is going to be how many? Another 9. Korban Pesach is done accompanied with Halel, and every set of Halel has a Tkiyah, Teruah, and Tkiyah, right? And by every set of Korban Pesach, they would do 3 times Halel, right? So that's 3 times Tkiyah, Teruah, Tkiyah, which is 9 for every set of Korban Pesach. How many times did the Azara fill up? 3 times. So that's 3 times 9 is 27. 27 plus 30, last time we checked, was 57. That completely blows 48 out of the water. And you want to tell me, maybe he's like Rabbi Yehuda. You remember Samach Dalet in Masechet Pesachim? Rabbi Yehuda says, Le'olam, never in the history of the Mikdash, Kat HaShlishi, the third group that came was empty, right? Ha'am Shebo Hayu Ma'atin. The people who were lazy enough to make it to the third kat were not many. So therefore, historically, the Levi'im and Kohanim never got to finish even the first set of Halil. So only you have Tkiyah Turat Tkiyah. So it's not 9, but is 3. So 9 plus 3 is 21. So fine. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, who it was so little, right? It would still be how much? 51. So 48 is not really the maximum. So let's read this inside together. Says in Gemara, when you have Erev Pesach, which you have Korban Pesach, and it happens to fall on Shabbat, Erev Pesach shchal liot b'Shabbat, Deila Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, who were a little bit, 50 v'chada, it will be 51. In Rabbanan, and if it's according to Rabbanan, that they have 3 full sets of Korban Pesach, each one of them 3 times Halil, times 3, it will be 27, plus 21, well, plus 30 rather, it's Shabbat. 50 v'sheva will be 57. The Gemara says, the ultimate answer, this is like a checkmate question, right? It's like a basic pashut, arithmetics. The Gemara says, yeah, you're correct. There are times, this is like shocking, right? There are times that they did 57, 51. You know why the Mishnah doesn't say it? You know why the Mishnah only says 48? We have a reason. Because Midi de'ite bechol shana erev Pesach shechal liot b'Shabbat. Says God says the things that are there every single year, the Mishnah mentioned. Every single year you don't have erev Pesach shechal liot b'Shabbat, right? Next time we're going to have Erev Pesach Shechal Liot B'Shabbat is going to be in 20 years, right? So it doesn't happen every single year. So says the Gemara, Ki katani midi deita b'chol shana. The Mishnah mentions something that every year you have. Every year you have minimum of the maximum is 48. Yes, you could have some years that's going to be 51, 57, but that's not every year. Erev ha-Pesach shchal liot b'Shabbat delete b'chol shana v'shana lo katani. That's why he doesn't say it. Now the Gemara says, wait a second. Atu erev Shabbat shebetoch hachag mi'ite b'chol shana. Well, you have erev Shabbat in Chag HaSukkot every year. Now this is a shocking question because everyone's eyebrows are raised now. So well, of course we have every year, we have a whole full week, right? You're bound to have a Friday in every Chag HaSukkot, because Chag HaSukkot is 7 full days, right? Every 7 consecutive days has every day of the week. You'll have a Sunday and a Monday and a Tuesday and a Wednesday and a Thursday and a Friday and a Shabbat in every 7 days. So what do you mean you don't have it every year? The Gemara explains, says, Zimnin, de lo mishkachad le. You have sometimes that you don't have Erev Shabbat shchal liot bechag, which you would blow 48, kegon shchal yom tov rishon be'erev Shabbat. Right? You did, if the first day of Chag HaSukkot falls to be on Friday, then you don't have Memchet. You don't have 48. Because remember, the Simchat Beit HaShoeva, that would be the cause of the extra trumpets to be blown, started when? Motza'eh. You remember the Lashon of the Mishnah? Bemotza'eh Yom Tov Rishon. And Motza'eh Yom Tov Rishon, you would start doing this whole thing of Ush'af Temayim Besason Mima'inei Yeshua. So first day morning of Yom Tov was what? Didn't have it. So if the first day of Chag HaSukkot falls to be on Friday, right? You don't have the combination of 6 blows that you had for Erev Shabbat, reminding people to start working and reminding people that Shabbat, plus the Simchat B'Dat HaShovah, because you don't have Simchat B'Dat HaShovah the first day of Yom Tov. And therefore, you could have a year that you don't have 48. Because the only way you would have 48 maximum is if Erev Shabbat falls to be on Sukkot. Now, you're correct that every Chag HaSukkot is going to have Erev Shabbat, but if Erev Shabbat is the first day of Chag HaSukkot, you don't have Memchet. Because you're not doing Simchat B'Dat HaShovah until Motzei Yom Tov Rishon. Geschmack. Right? It's an amazing question, right? It's like also a checkmate question. Wait a second, you're telling me that we're not saying 51 and 57 because not every year. So Erev Shabbat that happens to be in Sukkot, which you would do Memchet, would do 48, that is every year? It's not. If first day of Chag HaSukkot falls to be on Erev Shabbat, boom, you don't have it. Says the Gemara, this is the ultimate answer. The Gemara says, no, you will never have Erev Shabbat that falls to be first day of Sukkot. Why not? Well, if you let the calendar do its thing, it for sure would happen. But we stop it from happening. Right. We stop it from happening not because of Chag HaSukkot, but because of Yom Kippur. Listen to this. Ki mikla Yom Tov Rishon be'erev Shabbat. Whenever the year would have it, that Friday would be the first day of Chag HaSukkot, do you know what we do with it? Mitchi dachinan. We push it away. I can't push it away. We tamper with the calendar ahead of the time for it to make sure it doesn't happen. Now we have these concepts. But for instance, we say Lo Adu Rosh. Rosh Hashanah could never be in Adu, Aleph Dalet Vav, right? Rosh Hashanah can never, the first day of Rosh Hashanah can never be on a Sunday, can never be on a Wednesday, and can never be on a Friday. Do you know that? It never happens. We make sure it doesn't happen because we have our cheshbonot of what we want and what we don't want in the calendar. This is one of them. Says the Gemara, my Tama, why in the world would you tamper with the calendar to make sure that first day of Sukkot never falls on a Friday? Says the Gemara, Kevan de ikla yom tov rishon shel chag liot be'erev Shabbat. Whenever first day of Chag HaSukkot is going to be on Erev Shabbat on a Friday, Yom Kippur, when is it going to be? Sunday. Yom Kippur emat heve bechad b'Shabbat. It's going to be on a Sunday. Hilkach, therefore, we don't want that to happen. Hilkach dachinale. Therefore, we make sure that Yom Kippur does not fall on Sunday, which would mean the first day of Sukkot never would do it. It's like, counted, right? This is the the 10th and the 15th. Whenever it happens like that, whenever the Yom Kippur is on a Sunday, Chag HaSukkot is on a Friday. So that's the 10th of Tishrei, that's the 15th of Tishrei. It's always like that. There's no two ways about it. So therefore, because we don't want Yom Kippur to fall on a Sunday, we don't automatically want the first day of Chag HaSukkot to fall on a Friday. Not because of the Sukkot, but because of Yom Kippur, and automatically it's never going to happen. So says the Gemara, seriously, we're going to come back to why we would tamper with this. But the Gemara says, wait a second. Really? You never find Yom Kippur to fall on a Sunday? I will bring you proof after proof that Yom Kippur could and will fall on Sunday. Do we really push it? We learned in the Mishnah, the chalavim, the fats of the korbanot of Shabbat are brought on the Mizbeach on Yom Kippur. Now, when you have chalavim, can you burn them 2 days after? No. You always have to burn them the next day, not 2 days later. That's already avar zmano batel korbano. So if you are burning the chalavim of Shabbat on Yom Kippur, it automatically means Yom Kippur is on a Sunday. So that's a Mishnah, right? So says the Gemara, Chelve Shabbat Kerevin B'Yom HaKippurim. Ve'amar Rabbi Zera. And listen to this. And Rabbi Zera said, Ki avinan berav beBavel. Remember, Rabbi Zera is one that moved from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, right? It's the opposite of Rabbi, the people who came down from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel. He's one person that went from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael. He davened. Remember, we discussed this in Masechet Brachot, how he davened to forget his Talmud, his Babylonian Talmud, and learn the Torah of Eretz Yisrael, which is pashut and simple and clear and so on. So he's now recalling against that tefillah. He says, I remember when I was in Bavel with Rav, right? He was a Talmud of Rav. So ki avinan beRav beBavel hava amri, they would say, hi, the Tanya, this that we learned in the Braita Yom HaKippurim Shchal Yod Erev Shabbat lo ayu tokin, that a Yom HaKippurim that falls to be Erev Shabbat lo ayu tokim, they would not have the blows of Erev Shabbat. And in Motzei Shabbat, if a Yom Kippur would fall on Motzei Shabbat, lo ayu mavdilin, they would not do Havdalah. This says Rabbi Zera divrei hakol. This is according to everyone. These two halachot, that if Yom Kippur falls to be on Erev Shabbat, there's no Tkiyot of Erev Shabbat, and if it falls on Motzei Shabbat, there's no Havdalah, divrei hakol. Everyone agrees with it. We don't even care really what this means. All we need from this is surgically remove the last sentence and put it on a pedestal, that you could have a Yom Kippur that's on Motzei Shabbat. There's a she'ela on how you do Havdalah. There you're telling me that there is Yom Kippur on Motzei Shabbat. That's all we need from this, right? So he says, Gemara, what are you saying that Yom Kippur would never fall to be on a Sunday? Here's a Mishnah, and here's another member of Rabbi Zera, that Yom Kippur Taka falls to be on a Sunday, on a Motzei Shabbat. So says the Gemara, Kiselikid lahatam, ashkachtel Rabbi Yehuda breh de Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, de yati v'kamar Rabbi Akiva. So it's not divrei hakol. This is again, we already are done with what we wanted from this. We're just finishing what the Rabbi Zera said. Rabbi Zera said, when I was in Bavel, the Bet Midrash of Rav, people said that these two halachot are according to everybody. This is when I was in Bavel. Now that I came to Eretz Yisrael, right? The son of Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, Rabbi Yehuda, says that no, that's according to Rabbi Akiva. V'lo kasha. Harabanan ha'acherim. Right? So says the Gemara. The Gemara says there's no question. This is machloket Tanaim. It's machloket Tanaim whether or not Yom Kippur would fall on Sunday or Yom Kippur would not fall on Sunday. So therefore, when we said that Yom Kippur is never going to our Mishnah that says Yom Kippur would never fall on a Sunday, and therefore a first day of Chag HaSukkot would never fall on Friday, and therefore he's following the paper trail, and therefore because never you will have Friday that's going to be first day of Chag HaSukkot, you always, every year, will have the maximum of Memchet, right? 48. That's the answer of a paper trail. Now that we mentioned this, so you asked me from a Mishnah that you could have Yom Kippur on Motzei Shabbat. You asked me from Rabbi Zera's Memra that you could have Yom Kippur. That's machloket. This depends on a machloket Tanaim. Says the Gemara, what is the machloket Tanaim? Is Rabbanan and Acherim, which is Rabbi Meir, right? The Tanya we learned in the Braita. Acherim omrim, Rabbi Meir holds, en ben aseret la'aseret, you have the first wide line, ela, when ben Rosh Hashanah Rosh Hashanah, it's very appropriate Gemara on Erev Shavuot, right? And ben aseret la'aseret, this year's Shavuot and next year's Shavuot, or this year's Rosh Hashanah and next year's Rosh Hashanah, ela arba'a yamim bilvad. There are only 4 days apart from one another, right? Now this is also basic arithmetic, because What is the length of a Jewish calendar? 354, right? It's 11 days short of a solar calendar. So 365 minus 11 is 354. Now, 350 is divisible exactly by 7, right? That's 50 weeks of 7 days each. That's 350 days. So therefore, if Rosh Hashanah falls to be today on whatever date it is, next year is going to be 4 days added. That's how it is, the basic. So it says, that's Divrei Achirim. And if you have a Shana Me'uberet that you're adding another 29, so that will be 4 weeks and a day plus 4 days. So it will be 4 days plus 1 day, then it will be 5 days away, right? It will be 5 days away from each other. So says the Gemara, that's the reason, this is the end of this piece over here, right? That the question that you had on our Mishnah, we answered. Our Mishnah, who says that the maximum is 48, and it doesn't say 57, it doesn't say 51, is because it's telling us the things that happen every year, every single year. You asked me on a Erev Shabbat that falls to be on Chag HaSukkot, right? No, the first day of Chag HaSukkot could never be, because again, if there will be the first day, there will be less than Memchet. You won't have the maximum of 48. I said the reason that we don't say 51 or 57 is because we want something that's every year. Every year you will have 48, but you won't have every year 51 or 57. I said, really? You won't have 48 if the first day of Chag HaSukkot is on Friday. And I said, that will never happen. I said, it could happen. It says, no, that's Machloket Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Akiva, Acherim, and Chachamim. And our Mishnah is following the opinion that it will never happen because Yom Kippur could never happen on a Sunday, on a Motzei Shabbat. Fine, so we reconciled that problem. Now, the Gemara is going to ask a question. Metivim, they asked the Beit Midrash, this is going to be a question on Rab Acha bar Chanina Midroma. You remember, let's refresh our minds. Rab Acha bar Chanina Midroma, it was the one that started this whole tumult by saying that every Korban Musaf has its own 9 blows of trumpet. So if you have 2 Musafim, then you'll have 2 sets of trumpets blowing, each one 9. That was his chidush. Now the Gemara is going to question that halacha of Rab Acha bar Chanina Midroma. Says the Gemara, they asked the Beit Midrash, Rosh Chodesh chal liot beShabbat. If you have Rosh Chodesh that falls on Shabbat, now you have a Musaf of Rosh Chodesh, and you have Musaf of Shabbat. Simple, right? Shir shel Rosh Chodesh docha shir shel Shabbat. The Tehillim, the shir that you would sing on Rosh Chodesh trumps the shir that you would have, should have, could have said on Shabbat. What does it sound like? That sounds like you're not singing the shir shel Shabbat because you have to prioritize shir shel Rosh Chodesh. Now I have a simple question. If you're doing 2 sets of trumpets, 2 sets of whole thing, so say shir shel Shabbat and say shir shel Rosh Chodesh. Why do you have to trump one from the other? You're saying both. You're not factoring in all of them in one. It only becomes a question which one do you push away from in front of the other one if you're doing one, not 2. But if I'm doing both, then what's doche? Shouldn't be doche, should say both of them. Rab Acha bar Chanina Midroma holds that you say both. That's why each one of them has a set of 9 of trumpets that they would be blown when they're saying the shir. When do you think they did the trumpets? When they're saying the shir. So if Rav Acha Bar Chanina Midroma holds that you will have a shir for a trumpet blowing for both of them, which means by definition that you're saying a shir by both of them. So when I find this braita that says that you would push away the shir of Shabbat, milifnei shir of Rosh Chodesh, it sounds like you would only sing the shir of Rosh Chodesh and not that of Shabbat. So when you have two korban musafim, how many trumpet sets do you blow? One, it sounds like, from this braita. Right? Anybody with me? Yes? In other words, if you have a scenario in which you have both of the korban musafs brought, the two korbanot you're bringing korban musaf for Shabbat, you're bringing korban musaf of Rosh Chodesh. Now the question is, you're doing that. You're shechting both. Right? The question is, how many songs do you sing? How many trumpets do you blow? So Acha Bar Chanina said, you do both. You sing by both of them. You blow trumpets by both of them. Chazak u'baruch. Instead of 9, 18. Why says, we learned the braita that when you have Shabbat and Rosh Chodesh fall together, we push away the shir of Shabbat. We don't say it. So if you're not saying it, you're not blowing the trumpets either. That's like a bomb kasha on Rav Acha Bar Chanina Midroma, right? The Gemara says, no. When we say we push it away, doesn't mean that we're not going to do it on Shabbat. We're doing Shabbat. Push away means we do Rosh Chodesh first, even though that in technical halacha, Shabbat should be first. Why? We're coming. Tadir v'shero tadir kodem. That's why the Braita is coming to tell you, unlike you would have thought, that we got to do the Musaf of Shabbat first, right? And the Musaf of Rosh Chodesh. No, we got to do the Shir of Rosh Chodesh first, but doesn't mean that we're going to not do Shir for Shabbat. No, we got to do it. We're just going to do it second, right? That's what he means. If Rab Acha Bar Chanina is correct, let us say the Shir of Shabbat and Shir of Rosh Chodesh. Amar Rav Safra. Rav Safra says, Erachinami, yes, we sing Shabbat and we sing Rosh Chodesh. So my doche lekadem. When we say it pushes it away, it means it pushes it away to be first. Whereas Rosh Chodesh, the Shir of Rosh Chodesh should have been second, because it's Tadir V'Sheno Tadir Kodem. We still do it first, and then what is going to explain? Amai. Why would you do the Shir of Rosh Chodesh first and Shabbat second when you have Tadir V'Sheno Tadir Kodem? The Gemara says, Rabbi Yochanan, none other than Rabbi Yochanan himself explains that Ledach Shukvar Rosh Chodesh Bizmano. And you do that to make sure that people know, people come to Beit HaMikdash and they see, whoa, they sang the Shir of Rosh Chodesh first, they will know that the Beit Din has set the Rosh Chodesh to be in this day and they have no safek, right? The Gemara says, this is the heker we make. You want people to know that today is Rosh Chodesh and it's Bevadai Rosh Chodesh, right? Is that the heker? Is that the sign that you make? We already have a sign. You know what the sign is? We do make a different heker. This is not the heker, it's a different heker. Different sign. What is the different sign? Chelvet tamid shel shachar. When you shecht korban tamid shel shachar, rabotai, what do you do with the chalavim, with the fats that have to later on be burnt? Where do you put them? You put them in the freezer? No. You put them on kevesh, on the ramp of the mizbeach. Where? Imagine if you have the ramp, it's 32 feet, 32 amot, right? Going up, you put it on the lower half, on the right side. In other words, when you're going up the ramp, you're facing north, right? So your right side is going to be mizrach, right? The chalavim, the fats of the tamid shel shachar, the morning korban tamid, nitanin mechatzi kevesh ulmata, you put in the lower half of the kevesh and to the side of mizrach, to the right side. V'shel musafin nitanin mechatzi kevesh ul mata b'marav, and the tamid shel ben harbayim you put it also in the lower half of the kevesh, the ram, on the left side, on Ma'arav. Chazaku Baruch. And then at night, it's going to be burnt. V'shel Rosh Chodesh, you with me? V'shel Rosh Chodesh. The chalavim of the Korban Musaf of Rosh Chodesh, nitalin tachat karkova mizbeach ulmata. You put in the upper half of the mizbeach, which is tachat karkov. What's tachat? Let me explain to you what tachat karkov is. The kevesh is 32 feet, again, 32 amot rather, long, and it's on a slant. The slant goes from 0 to 9 amot, tall, right? Now, the sovev of the Mizbeach, I explained this 2 weeks ago. The sovev of the Mizbeach is 6 amot up, right? So it's for sure the upper half is 2/3 of the height of the kevesh. And that's where you put, Tachat HaKarkov is where you put the chalavim of Korban Musaf of Rosh Chodesh. Higher up than the Tamid Shachar and Tamid Shachar. They do it that way for people to see, that is, we know where it goes. That is the chalavim of Korban Musaf, which means today is for sure Rosh Chodesh. That is the heker we make, usually. Rabbi Yochanan himself is the one that said, this we do for people to know, Shehu Kvar Rosh Chodesh Bizmano. That Rosh Chodesh was set on that day, Bevadai, and the Gemara answers, the Gemara says, we have this heker, why do you need the other heker, right? To do the Korban Musaf, the Shir of Korban Musaf first, before Musaf Rosh Chodesh, before Musaf of Shabbat. And the Gemara says, Tereh heker avdinan. We do 2 signs. Well, you can never have enough signs that today is Rosh Chodesh. So we do that sign and we do this sign. Well, what's the kasha? There's no kasha. Tereh heker avdinan. The chazi, hi, chazi. But the chazi, hi, chazi. Whoever sees this one, that will be his heker. And many people don't see this one, they see the other one. And that will be heker for them. Again, you can never have too many hekerim. And that ends the question that we had. Next Gemara is going to be a fantastic Gemara, which is going to uproot this halakha of Rav Acha Bar Chanina Midroma. The Gemara is going to ask a series of questions, and it's going to come out with Tiyufta, the Rav Acha Bar Chanina Tiyufta. It's going to, the whole Amud that we did is going to be checkmate, basically, in the next year.